Closed captioning for The Casey Malone Show is sponsored by Hunter Stevens Land Title Agency. Integrity, service, and commitment you can trust.
Oh yeah, Casey Malone is serving up local. It's time for the stories of our region, the tastes, the sights, the sounds, and the people in and around the valley. Get ready for some local flavor on The Casey Malone Show.
Today I prepare my stuffed poblano peppers. It's the hot sausage that gives them a kick. And we tour the Museum of Ceramics and learn about the history in East Liverpool, Ohio. Join me for a really interesting segment. We're going inside and getting the grand tour of the Museum of Ceramics right here in East Liverpool, Ohio. Well, Sarah Webster Vaudry is the director. And Sarah, I love this museum. I mean, I really think everyone from our region needs to visit and learn the history. This was the pottery capital of the world.
Well, it's certainly the pottery capital of the nation since the 1880s. It started back then in terms of our supremacy over other places, and it remains the pottery capital of the nation. Even now, we have more pottery made in this area than anywhere else in the country. So,
at its peak, how many potters were here in East Liverpool?
I'm guessing here, but I would say probably around 20,000 people were involved in the pottery industry, whether it's making pottery, owning potteries, working for pottery-related businesses. And we've had hundreds of potteries here over 3 centuries as well. So we've had more potteries here than anywhere else in the country, as well as making more ware. So James Bennett was the very first commercially successful potter in the area, and then he brought his brothers from England, and then that inspired hundreds of other English potters.
So this clay was exactly what they needed.
It was a yellow clay, and we have huge amounts of it. You could still go out and dig it right out of the hillsides if you were so inclined. So from the 1840s through the 1870s, all the clay that was used for the pottery industry in this area came right from our hillsides. They didn't have to bring it in from anywhere else. So we had huge amounts of yellow clay. We have the wonderful riverside location, which helps to move the ware up and down the river. And we had all this influx of British skilled labor. In the 1850s, it said that we had more English accents on our streets than American accents. And including my ancestors. My ancestors got here in 1847 to East Liverpool, and the Vaudrys made pottery in the USA.
I mean, you come by this
for 100
naturally.
years. Yes,
I do.
do.
And to be the director of this museum.
But we were just one of hundreds of potteries in the area.
I mean, that is hard to believe. Hundreds of pottery factories. Mm-hmm. And now
we're down to 3 main ones. We have Homer Laughlin, which started in East Liverpool. Yes, they're in nearby West Virginia, but we're one big happy tri-state area family here. So we still claim Homer Laughlin, and Homer Laughlin is the nation's largest pottery in the whole country.
And they acquired Hall, did
and
they
a few years ago did buy the Hall China Company, but Hall is able to maintain their same name, so they're still making ware with the Hall China name. Mm-hmm. The Hall China Collectors Group is just as ardent about loving Hall China as the Homer Laughlin China Collectors Group is about loving Homer, and now there's some nice support between the 2 groups.
And who is the third pottery?
And the third pottery is called American Mug and Stein. It's in the downtown of East Liverpool, and that is a descendant of a pottery called the Pioneer pottery. So it used to be called Pioneer, now it's American Mug and Stein. And American Mug and Stein came to national prominence a few years ago because we had the head of Starbucks come to town and confer with the owner, and the result of that is that American Mug and Stein upgraded their facility, hired more workers, and made 20,000 mugs for Starbucks.
And well, we're here in the theater, and this is where you recommend we start the tour.
We start the tours here if people have time. Mm-hmm. It's a 12 or 13 minute little video clip, some interviews with me, my father who's on our board and is a really knowledgeable, history-loving man, a woman who has since died who was like the queen of downtown East Liverpool, Joan Witt, who was a wonderful history lover and historian, and then friends of ours, Bill and Donna Gray, who are local authors and historians themselves and museum supporters and wonderful people. So there are just so many great people in the area who love this history. This whole section was part of the post office public area, so they lavished a lot of resources to make this beautiful. They had people doing beautiful plaster work and doing wonderful architectural details. Just every little place you look, it's a very harmonious design.
Yeah, it's a beautiful building.
Beaux-Arts design. Right here, this is one of the treasures of the museum. It's the only one known to exist, and there are collectors of this pottery who would just love, love, love if I said, oh, go ahead and take it. It's not mine to give, though. This is made by Harker Taylor and Company, and it is a hand marbled water cooler, and it used to have a lid and it doesn't anymore, but you can just look at this and see that is an amazing bit of artistry, and there's an awful lot of artistic energy that was lavished on this. And it's interesting too, because in a time when most people didn't even bother putting the name of the pottery that made these things, they didn't put their names on their ware because they just wanted to make it and sell it. These folks put their name on it, and they didn't put it on the bottom, they put it front and center as if to say, we are so proud of this.
We'll be right back with more from the Museum of Ceramics. I've got your next t-shirt idea for the magic trick. Eat, drink, celebrate, repeat.
Casey,
You like that?
that is our slogan.
Okay, like
But you know what? I think we need to put that on a t-shirt. But yes, you know, when it comes to our food, we truly have the passion for bringing great quality food. We make from scratch. We support local farmers with our farm-to-table menu, and that's what we do. And then when it comes to our beverages, our drinks, I mean, we have 41 craft beers on tap. We really have the passion for the craft beer, and we are the only place this side of the state that does wine on tap. You cannot get a better quality. And then celebrate here at Magic Tree. You know, it's all about creating a memory for people.
And you see all the different celebrations, all the things that people just love to party here. And I'll tell you, eat, drink, celebrate, repeat.
Cheers.
Part of growing up in Youngstown is growing up with Rowley Brothers Markets. Even friends who have moved out of town come to shop and say hi when they're home for a visit.
And my family has always shopped at Rowley's, and today they are still my favorite grocery store. My recipes depend on the best ingredients, and that's why I get them at Rowley's, where you'll always find the freshest food at the best prices.
Rowley Brothers is a proud sponsor of the KC Malone Show. The quality that customers have come to expect is true local flavor.
$5 Burger Mondays at Sadie's Place, inside the Best Western, Route 46, Austintown. So this is from the 1840s.
1840s, possibly up through the 1870s, and they probably made it upside down on a potter's wheel and then added a bottom to it, turned it over, because imagine, I mean, you can't get your fingers in there to make this little tiny end.
Yeah.
So, but it's very symmetrical, so it was almost certainly made on a potter's wheel. W.C. Bunting is one of our local decorating companies, and they got their start initially at Ohio State University, or the Ohio State University, making mugs just for people who went to Ohio State. And then this couple who were sweethearts at the time, and they ended up getting married, they had such success with their mugs at Ohio State that they started making them and selling them to other universities and colleges. And it's entirely likely that any college or university in the country that you would visit would have W.C. Bunting wear. This was made at about the same time as President McKinley, and some evidence suggests that it might have been made for President McKinley. And the image in the middle is a decal, which some artist had to draw that and paint it. So it's not a bad thing, but the decal is much less impressive than the amazing hand decoration of the gold all the way around. Because that is, I mean, as uniform and machine done as it looks, it is all done by hand. This is a mural, a blown up mural of an 1886 map of East Liverpool. And so in 1886, the population of East Liverpool was 8,000 people. And I love the fact that you've got people on horseback, you've got riverboats, you've got people on railroads. It's just a very vibrant place to be. And you can look in the downtown and say, you've got people living right next to the pottery. So you've got all these bottle kilns poking up out of the buildings. And so for example, there's Caseyth Street. I was talking about that, that revolutionary. Well, there he is. And right here in 1886, there is a beautiful house owned by the Brunt family. The Brunt family lived here, and then worked a few blocks away. So where we're standing right now, this was a mansion on the corner of Broadway, Caseyth, and 5th Street. And then a few years later, the family sold their house to the federal government, which then built a beautiful Beaux-Arts style post office in the area. My family pottery was right here. It's Vaudry and Brothers. Another family pottery, I'm related to the Thompson family pottery, and that's down here along the river. That's number 25 on the map. Not at the risk of seeming to promote my own family too much, I will point out some of my favorite pieces right here. This is a tea set. You've got a creamer, a sugar bowl, and a teapot made by Vaudry and Brother between 1876 to 1896. And even if it didn't have my family name on it, which it does, even if it didn't though, I would appreciate this for all the hand decoration. So it's machine made, but then artisans, decorators came along and added every tiny little bit of red. Right here, this thing is called a slop jar. And a slop jar is part of a toiletware set. If you washed your face and washed your hair and took all of that wastewater, it would be handier to put it in one place rather than going to the window every time and dumping it out the window. So it's called a great wheel as opposed to just a two-person potter's wheel. And in fact, it's not a two-person potter's wheel, it would have been a three-person potter's wheel. One person would have done this, which could be very boring after a while.
Yes.
Another person would stand and get to do the fun part of actually making pottery on the wheel. And a third person, their entire responsibility was to prepare the clay, and that piece in the middle with three-dimensional flowers, that is a treasure of ours that was made by a company to take to trade shows and basically boast about all the different things they could do.
So
little did I know that this is really a fascinating part of our American, not just East Liverpool, of our American history. These shaving mugs were something that pretty much every guy in the country between 1870, around there, until about 1920, 1925, you had a shaving mug that sat in a barber shop that had your name on it, and a lot of times had your profession on it. And so it was advertising for you, for your profession, and it was advertising for the barber that he had the carpenter, and he had the butcher, and he had the baker, and he had the manufacturer. and they all came to his barbershop.
There's an 1880s teapot, but then right above it is a 1940s teapot, which is the Hall China donut teapot. But the donut-shaped teapot is still in production, and it's one of those classic designs that came out of Art Deco. Fiesta Ware just celebrated its 75th anniversary a few years ago. And this is significant because this shows you the very first 6 colors that the company ever made in Fiesta Ware.
Where are you getting most of your acquisitions? Like, where are you getting all the donations for all the things that you display?
65 to 70% of what you'll see on the tour in the building comes from the local historical society called the East Liverpool Historical Society, and people began donating when the East Liverpool Historical Society helped the city celebrate our 100th anniversary in 1934. That's when real collecting seems to have picked up. So people started looking in their attics and their garages and, on their mantelpieces and picking and choosing, well, this ought to go to the Historical Society.
That's great. The Casey Malone Show will be right back with more local flavor.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Bernard. Every personal injury case has its own unique circumstances. The best advice I can give to anybody who suffered an injury is please call a lawyer. Don't try to settle the case on your own. When you contact our office, you will talk to a lawyer. And we're not going to charge you for just walking in our door or giving us a call. In fact, we won't get a fee unless your case is successful. Personal attention is what our clients deserve. It's our #1 priority.
Hi everybody, I'm Danny, owner and operator of Cthulhu Prime Meats, a 3rd-generation butcher shop that not only specializes in quality, but also in customer service and doing things in a new technological way. Chris here is our customer service manager. Chris, what do you think that we do differently than any other grocery store?
I think we personally not only offer great product, but we can offer a great customer service experience as well. We try and treat all our customers like they were family and friends, ask how their family's doing just so they can keep in touch, and give them that customer experience that they deserve.
And the nice part is we not only do that inside the store, but also on CthulhuPrimeMeats.com, where you can buy a lot of our products that we carry here, whether it be grass-fed beef, organic chicken, some of our specialty burgers and bacon. Those are wonderful, and we're going to provide that same customer experience online as we do in store.
Come see us in store or online. Make your next meal one to remember.
Four for $5 till 6. Happy hour at Sadie's Place inside the Best Western, Route 46, Austintown.
My mom was always in my corner.
Always pushing me to do better.
I couldn't have asked for a better mother.
So when she needed assisted living,
I did my research.
Doctors, nurses,
and others with family and assisted living,
they all said,
Trust the name you know.
Briarfield.
for assisted living with top healthcare experts, a caring staff, and a comfortable home-like setting.
Trust the name you know.
Briarfield.
Trust the name you know. Briarfield. Proudly serving the Valley for over 20 years.
My dad, Stephen J. Kamara, opened a jewelry store in 1948. He sold high-quality jewelry at a fair price. We are keeping the family tradition alive. I'm Bob Kamara. Along with my children, Rob and Brianna, Kamara's has the largest selection of diamonds and engagement rings in our area. You can trust Kamara Jewelers to offer the best value and personal service. Kamara Jewelers, locally owned by the third-generation Kamara family and working on the fourth. Get real, get Kamara.
Well, today I'm going to prepare a really easy comfort dish. Everyone is familiar with stuffed peppers. My mother makes delicious stuffed peppers. but it's just ground beef and rice and tomatoes. I am giving it a twist, and this has got a little bit of a kick. This will be my stuffed poblano peppers. My husband, Ken, loves poblanos. They're a little bit spicy, but not overpowering. They have a really nice smoky texture. They bake really nice. So I'll be using the poblano as the little vessel for our meat. And instead of ground beef, I'm going to be using hot sausage. Buy it in bulk. A lot of people love the Rulli Brothers brand. They love Catullo's, DePizzo's, whatever your favorite hot sausage is, and everything else will remain the same. We'll add a little bit of rice, some breadcrumbs, but we'll use some different cheeses to top it off with. And I'm telling you, in under an hour, this is a great and easy main dish. So let's get started with my stuffed poblano peppers. For this recipe, you'll need 3 or 4 poblano peppers, 1.5 pounds of your favorite hot Italian sausage, 1/2 cup of cooked rice, 1 small onion diced, 1 egg, 1/3 cup of seasoned breadcrumbs, 1 10 or 14 ounce can of spicy diced tomatoes or your favorite salsa, queso fresco cheese or shredded taco blend cheese. Well, I've already preheated the oven to 375 degrees. And I took the small onion that was diced and put that with a little bit of butter in a small skillet, and I've softened it. So we can add that to the recipe. And then I cooked off a 1/2 cup of rice, which probably brought it to almost a full cup. And I have my 9x13 pan, and I treated it with cooking spray. And now I will take the diced tomatoes with green chilies. There's a lot of different brands of this, or you can take your favorite picante or salsa and use that as the base. And then I am just going to pour this into the bottom of the dish. So now we'll begin assembling everything else. This recipe is enough for 6 to 8 stuffed poblano peppers, depending on the size of the pepper. These are a nice medium size. And I destemmed them, and then I took out all the seeds, and then I cut them lengthwise. So it'll be a nice little pepper boat to hold the hot sausage. And right now I have 6 ready to go. So then I'll assemble the meat. We have 1.5 pounds of hot sausage. I will add the cooked onion. I will add the egg, and then the rice and the breadcrumbs. And that's it. That is all you need. Now we'll just get in there and mix it all together. And the egg night, is nice for the moisture. And then of course, with the rice, you have a nice binder along with the breadcrumbs. And I mean, this isn't hard and fast. If you want to have a little more starch in there, you can always make more rice. If you don't want any starch, you really don't need to add the rice. So now you start assembling them. And it's probably, what would that be? About 1/2 cup. And I just try to evenly line the pepper with this, so it will cook evenly once we pop it in the oven. And you just kind of form it along the line of the pepper. Leave a little bit of height in there, but you don't want to overstuff it because then it'll take that much longer to cook through. So then we just, there, perfect, beautiful, nice, and put that in our dish. These filled up the pan perfectly. 6 gorgeous peppers. Cover them with foil, and we're gonna pop them in the oven for 30 minutes. Well, I just pulled these out. It's been 30 minutes. Remove the foil. I'm not going to put the foil back on. And I really like the queso fresco cheese. It's a mild, soft, crumbly Mexican cheese, and it really works nicely with this dish. If you're not a fan of this, you can use a taco Mexican blend shred, or you don't have to use any cheese at all. But now that you remove the foil, you just want to get these browned a little bit on top. and get these cooked further, but I'll tell you, these smell amazing. So I'm gonna pop these back in, uncovered, for another 30 minutes, and then dinner will be served. So it's about an hour baking time total at 375, and then let them rest a little bit just to, you know, settle down a little bit, about 5 or 10 minutes before you serve them. And you know, I always have been a big fan of your traditional
My
stuffed peppers.
good old Stella stuffed peppers.
Yes, Stella's stuffed with the red or the green bell peppers, and you know,
whatever's in season.
Wonderful ground beef in that. But what do you think of the kicked up version?
I have been dying to taste them.
Little bam.
Oh, they're great.
Aren't they good?
They're very good. And I love these peppers.
The poblano is mild. It doesn't have that bitterness to it, but it's smoky. And I think they're really good. Now, because there's a little bit of heat, I thought that the California Cider Company, they make Ace. This is a pineapple cider. It is not real sweet, but it really will cut through some of the heat, and it's refreshing with this kind of dish. What do you think?
Here's Hawaii.
Here's to the pineapple. Cheers.
That's right.
This is really good. It's a nice palate cleanser.
I like that.
Well, just go to my website, CaseyMaloneShow.com, for the stuffed poblano pepper recipe, and you are going to love it.
They're
Thanks,
delicious.
Mom. Oh, cheers.
Anytime. Cheers.
The Casey Malone Show is sponsored in part by Denise and John York and the DeBartolo Corporation.